Oh my goodness, it's Monday Night Live. We're back. I believe we've been live for 8 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure it is to be here. I've had an awesome week. Lots of celebrating this week. And it just so happens I've got my friend joining me today who's joining us from the other side of the globe in England in his quality studio there. You can see like a beautiful lighting that down there in his back cave or wherever it may be. Paul Hogden, Hogden is that, or Hogden is it?
Hogden.
Paul Hogden is a owner of a web design agency and SEO. He's done some work for my company, Bibby Consulting Group, in graphic design as well. And I asked Paul to come on today to talk about something that's probably going to affect a lot of people in business, and that's search behavior and what's going on with Google and the updates that are happening. So much going on in the technology world. I think it's about time that everybody had a bit of a update on how this is all going to impact, the way that their websites rank and so on. So Paul, first of all, welcome to Monday Night Live. You're famous.
Well, I feel famous. And by the way, congratulations on punching through 10,000 subscribers. So I've got a question for you. I don't want to take over your slot, but, what's the big learning for getting to 10,000 subscribers?
Okay, great question. So, I've got the poster behind me because we had some friends around to celebrate for drinks, hitting 10,000 subscribers. And it's not something that I would normally celebrate, but I think that it was about 600 or 700 videos, and it's been 10 years to get here. Now, the interesting thing is just over a year ago, I had less than 1,000 subscribers. So, sometimes, it's not, you might be doing something for a while, but then you make a little shift and then it really transforms the rate at which you grow at. And for me, I looked at the number of views that each video was getting, and I looked at where the subscribers were coming from, and I noticed that there was one video that about 90% of my subscribers were coming from. So I just basically wrote down all the things that are unique about that video, things like it was longer, there was no slides behind me when I was talking, so it's probably more engaging. It was covering a particular keyword, and then created like more content or like adapted existing content to like cater for that sort of keyword and that kind of stuff. And I just found that the channel started to grow from there. So I'm hoping that like with these sort of tweaks, it should be only a year or two before it goes from 10,000 to 100,000 with a bit of luck.
Why not? Why not? That's amazing. It's and you also got a couple of your campaigns nominated as well. Is that right? I saw that on social media. Monday Night Live, which is what we're on now, and also LinkedIn versus Instagram, the campaign I did with Brooke Volinovic, another surname I love to pronounce, who we're both in the finals for Social Media Marketing Awards. We're very excited about it. A lot of these awards, they voted by, public, and you send it out to everyone, and whoever wins. But this has got professionals that are like executives in Spotify, Facebook, Snapchat, all these sort of, big companies in the industry that we respect. So it's definitely the one that you want to win one for if you do win one. Fantastic.
But Paul, back to you.
Oh, God. Okay. Enough deflection.
One of the reasons I love YouTube so much, by the way, is that it is a search engine, and I think that a lot of the traffic that we get on YouTube videos do come from the likes of Google and so on. Now, I know there's been updates this year on the Google search algorithm, but give us a bigger picture, like what's happening in search behavior that's going to impact businesses.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting you say that. Believe it or not, there's been over 3,000 updates in the past 12 months from Google, most of which kind of go under the radar. You don't necessarily see much difference, but they are making changes. The main thing that Google are trying to push is something called EAT. You may have heard of that. That's expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. So to put that into layman's terms, basically what they want it to be is they want it to be clear. Okay, they want it to be clear on all types of devices. So whether you're looking on a desktop, whether you're looking on a mobile, it's got to look right. They want it to be fast,
because nobody likes a boring, slow-loading website. And they want it to be easy.
On the mobile device, though, for instance, like one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is, even though you may look at it on a mobile from your home, or wherever, if you might have 5G, you might have really good Wi-Fi, but remember that a lot of the countries in the world, a lot of other people that they might be like looking at it while they're not in good connection area, they can't use their 5G. So it has to have quick load time so that they can accommodate them in those circumstances.
Yeah, and you're right. And so few websites actually even get anywhere near. You don't have to be super zippy. You don't have to do what one guy I know was advised. One of my previous clients was advised, and that was not by me, I hasten to add, but he was basically advised to cut down all of the content and his text on each page to just 50 words. I mean, that's pretty ludicrous, but you don't have to do any of that. It's just got to be pretty quick, but it's also got to be comprehensive. So you've got to do a bit of a deep dive into whatever it is. But when I also say comprehensive, I also mean that you need to have more than one article about it. So there's no point just doing a flash in the pan, because Google won't understand it. And it's got to have supporting media. So stuff like we're doing now, videos, pictures, all of that type of stuff. That would be absolutely awesome. And finally, and this is the big bit, and this is where people like you come in, Mr. Bibby, and that is backlinks and social backlinks as well. The whole thing has to be supported and get those ticks and those likes to make it worthwhile.
And when you're doing, when you're uploading media and images, like I know from experience, there's so much technical stuff that goes into it. Like, what do the images have to be saved with certain words, and the way that you do it's really important. So I think if you're going to spend, if you're starting a small business and you're going to spend money on anything, I think it should be your website. I think it's the most important thing. It's like it's like the shelf you sell your product on. You got to have a good shelf.
Absolutely. It's kind of like it's where you control the experience the most. It's where, when you get people to come to your website, you can show the best of yourself, the best of your business. And it's actually about controlling that experience so that people do what you ask them to do. So it's really, really important that you remove all of the fluff and all of the gumph and all of the fluffy kittens, and you have something about your business.
Paul, I just got to have a quick shout out to the audience. Are you guys out there? Because we're not seeing any comments come through. I don't know if maybe the disconnects, it's not connected properly to LinkedIn, but drop us a comment if you're watching, so we know that you're alive and we know that you're there. And while we're on that note, if you do have questions about websites or SEO, user-based experience, how to get more conversions on your websites. So comments starting to come through now. Thank you, Sonia. I'm going to send you a box of chocolates. Thank you. And but if you have questions, whatever it is, drop them in the comments. Now's your chance to ask whatever it is that you want. If you've got a business and you've got a website, you've got a question, I'm sure there's one that you can think of. And I will start off, because I use voice search a lot on this, right? When I'm out and about and I'm looking around for things, or if I'm just can't use my hands, I've just got familiar with it. How does voice search affect how is voice search affecting SEO and where websites rank and results?
Well, it's becoming more and more important. I don't think it's there yet, because the intelligence isn't quite there. For example, if you say certain things, so if you said, for example, web design company, you'd get the top local web design company. So it works on a cursory basis. When you start adding extra words around it, it can start to get a bit
this is the thing. People are more likely to ask, where is the nearest web design agency, aren't they?
So it might work as far as that, but when you start saying, I'm thinking about starting up a business, you might get served a web page which might have some relevant content, but it might also miss what your intent is. And search intent is really, really important. And don't forget, with Google, it is all about search intent, because the thing is we tell Google what we want. It's unlike any other advertising platform that there is out there, because we actually kind of, give them an idea as to what it is that we're looking for. So it's so much more powerful than, outward bound advertising and marketing that we traditionally would do, because you've got half a chance of engaging with somebody who might be interested in your product or service.
Yeah. Yeah. So search like intent is really like, you know, somebody might search for, I don't know, plumber, Sydney, for example. And, you know, they could be searching for like to hire an emergency plumber. They could be searching because they want to be a plumber. They could be searching because they want to date a plumber. And it's Google's job to try and work out, you know, based on their behavior in the past or whatever, however Google does it, what you're actually looking for and show you the most relevant things. So it's getting to a stage where it's pretty complicated now, pretty smart AI system.
It is, and that's why it needs all of this supporting material to kind of help Google work out what your pages are about. Because you're quite right. In the olden days, you know, we would always make sure that we ranked, for example, for, you know, web design Cambridge, because that would be the type of thing you'd type. But nowadays, people are saying web designers near me, you know, what's the best web platform, all of those types of things. And so that's why you need more comprehensive and varied content in your website to make sure that the search engines, and particularly Google, because it's still 95% of all searches done, are understanding what your site and what your business is all about, so that you get the right people.
Paul, when I started my career, I moved to Thailand and I got to pay property development website to top of Google. Went from getting one lead every few months to 10 leads a day. I was a superstar. And then a couple of years later, Google updates its algorithm. The websites that I'd optimized dropped to page 50 or more in the search results. So pretty much like everything I've learned, everything I did became obsolete. And I had to learn about an alternative strategy, which in this case was Google AdWords. But I learned that trying to hack your way to the top of Google, just like hacking your way to the top of the newsfeed in social media, is a limited strategy, because as the algorithm gets smarter, obviously it's going to serve users better content. So what are the issues, or what kind of websites that people have out there now that are watching, that are business owners? Who are the guys that need to be concerned at the moment? Like, what are the biggest mistakes they've got on their websites that could cause them to drop down the search results and, you know, impact their business in a negative way?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really great question. So on page is probably now about, I'd say probably about 40% of the battle. So thin content. So basically content that doesn't have a lot of depth, doesn't have a lot of gravity, doesn't have a lot of, it isn't so comprehensive. Those are the type of pages that stand to be at risk as it stands at the moment. Also businesses where they don't have very many pages, because again, we talk about looking at the web pages as being authoritative, but also we look at the website on the whole. So making sure that you've got internal links from one page to another. So if you've got related content, make sure you tell Google by putting an internal link between one page or another. You'd think it wouldn't make a damn's worth of difference, but nowadays Google's trying to get all of this together in sort of one cohesive kind of mass that says this website's authoritative about these three things. And that's what you need to do. And also make sure that you're linking out to other authoritative sites. Sounds really counterintuitive, but those are the types of things that you need to be looking at, and working on your backlinks via other sites coming to you, and also social media, making sure that you're getting those social hits so that, you know, people know that this is the type of site you should be coming to.
Yeah. Are there any tools that you recommend for businesses that are looking to do things like create more internal links, or, you know, stuff like that, SEO tools?
Yeah,
I know.
sure.
Any that you particularly recommend?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few out there. You've got SEMrush, which is quite a big and popular setup. You can normally utilize SEMrush for about 7 days for not a lot of money. I think it was about $7. It was pretty. It was pretty good. If you want, Ubersuggest is a new kid on the block that's run by the infamous Neil Patel. Probably heard of him. He has basically invested a lot of time and effort. He's doing a lot of free stuff, so that's well worth looking at. And then Ahrefs.
Monday Night Live. He just doesn't know it yet.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, no, not too soon, because otherwise he'll knock me into a cocked hat. But no, I would certainly look at those things. The important thing is that you also need to look at what your competition's doing, because without measuring what they're doing, you
Right.
can't benchmark yourself to see what you need to do. So seeing how many backlinks their site may have will give you an indication as to how much work you need to do to make those improvements.
Yeah. And what about location-based search? How important is that?
Yeah, well, it depends if you're a location-based business, in as much as, you know, if you're not serving the whole of Australia or the UK, you know, that can be very, very useful. And then you've got Google My Business.
So, okay,
And
so
so-
like if you say like you're just targeting Perth, right, for example, and you put Perth as a keyword as part of your optimization, is it right to say that you just created less competition for you in the search results because you're competing against the local businesses?
if you're ranking specifically for Perth, for example, so yeah, because you've just increased the length of the search term, you've knocked out quite a few people as far as competitors go, so you could rank there. But that only is true if people are actually searching for that search term, and that's why it's so important to kind of get some ideas as to what people are actually looking for. Because if they're not looking for that, then you are probably wasting your time. You know, it's great to be number one, and you can turn around and say, hey, look, I'm number one for this, but totally irrelevant if nobody's looking for that search term.
Yeah, it's when I was started doing LinkedIn. So go on.
I was going to say, but Google My Business is also a great tool, and you can. Yeah, Google My Business is awesome for local businesses, because effectively you can rank independently of your website on Google My Business, and I do that myself for sort of locality based work. So Cambridge is a good example. I rank number 2, I think, on Google organic search engines, and I think I'm in the top 3 on that top 3 map pack that always pops up. So I kind of get.
Is it the reviews that make it move to number 1? Is it? Yeah.
Well, I'll give you a top tip if you'd like. If you set up your Google My Business site, it's very, very simple to set up. Make sure that your 2 things. Make sure that your name, address, and phone number, so that's NAP, you might have heard of NAP, correlate to exactly the same on your website.
Right.
So they must look exactly the same. And the second thing is if you do 1 post a week, that's 1 post per week, you'll do pretty well. And the chances are, I mean, in all honesty, that's all I'm doing on Google My Business for these 2 things. And I'm up there in the top 3, and I haven't done a great deal to them. It was more of an experiment, but it works. So just systematic, because they only expect you to do 1 update every 7 days. So just give it a go and see whether or not you start to appear higher up in the map pack.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I've certainly found that reviews make a big difference, whether they're good or bad. This is what we've got here. That's a good website for the local search. Here we go. And 100% good. Yep. We've got a few experts on the call by looks of things. What's this one? All right, Derek. Should you be disavow bad links to pop up? And if so, how often should you do this? So just explain what that means exactly with disavow bad links.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting thing, because it depends on what you class as a bad link. But fundamentally, Google would say, yes, you should. And yes, you should disavow bad links. Disavowing basically means is to tell Google that the link that's coming in is a bad thing and you don't want to be associated with it. So it could be a dodgy site. It could be, it could be something that perhaps your site was hacked a few months ago and that's caused the problem. And so you want to give a list of things to tell Google to ignore. Now, some people say that if it's a good enough link, maybe you don't. But the only thing that you do have to bear in mind is, if you remember about EAT, about expertise, authority, and trustworthiness, ideally it should be linked in some way, shape, or form to your business type. Otherwise, you could start sending off some strange signals to Google, and it may have an adverse effect. But yes, disavowing is something that you should be looking at, I would say, on a monthly basis, really.
Yeah, cool. Guys, if you just a thought, if you're on Google My Business, drop your link to your Google My Business in the chat so we can check it out. Paul, if you could do yours, drop yours in afterwards, perhaps on LinkedIn, that'd be great, so we can have a look at the example. I've got a lot of comments coming through here saying like how important Google My Business is. or GMB, what it looks like what it stands for in the industry.
Yes.
Great comment, Mark. Great core as a link inside the site to really optimize the Google My Business.
Basically, if you pay attention to Google My Business, if you do what they ask you to do, so one of the things to get a quick jump is to make sure that you update your business hours. In COVID, particularly, Google is paying a lot of attention to people who are updating their opening hours, and that can give you a quick spike. So if, for example, you're going to put an offer out there, let's say you've got an offer, because Google have got lots of nice natty little things that they do inside Google My Business, and it's well worth looking at if you haven't looked at it recently. But if you've got an offer that you want to promote sort of quickly, changing the business hours can sometimes give you a little spike, and you'll appear in that map pack just by changing your business hours.
Brilliant.
How about that?
What are your thoughts around, like, if you've got multiple locations in different cities, do you have a different Google My Business listing for each one, or?
Well, it's up to you. I've been experimenting, and I've found that the best way to do it is to have a GMB per city. That's easier said than done, because of course the verification process is quite arduous. I know that there are different ways that you can get verified, but longevity suggests that you need to have an address in that city. But you could get a virtual address. Sometimes that doesn't work out if Google knows it to be a mailbox address, but ideally that's what you do. But then it does also double, triple, quadruple your workload. So you do have to kind of be...
Reviews are spread all over the place as well, which is a bit frustrating. But I guess it's two listings, isn't it? And people are searching in different locations.
That's precisely it. And that's where I found I've had my quickest and best wins, is if I have a GMB in a particular town or city.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a very obvious question, but how important is social media in relation to where your website ranks, on Google? And also, like, how does it impact that, what was it, EAP, the expert?
EAT?
Expert
authority, trustworthiness. Yeah, you'll see a lot about that, and Google are really, really pushing that as an agenda item. So the answer to your question is anything that backlinks to your website that's a positive experience. So social media being a classic example, validates your website to Google and to the search. So some validation from social media, some validation, some backlinks perhaps from other websites, all of that goes towards building something that Google says, I'm happy to push that person up the search engine rankings because they are getting those sorts of social signals. And social signaling is important. It was really, really important. It's now important. But I guess that's going to fluctuate backwards and forwards. Nothing stays the same Google. And if they see that social signals are becoming even more important, they'll just tweak the algorithm as they do.
And backlinks obviously need to be from credible websites. So, like, what's the easiest way for a business to get on a credible website, to get a backlink on there? Like, for a lot of us, like, thinking about, there's the strategy. How do we actually get backlinks on there in the first place? Do you literally have to become a contributor to, news blogs and stuff like that?
Yeah, sometimes it is as much as that, and that's why it's a time-consuming thing. It doesn't have to be like that. So, for example, you might have some really, really credible directory sites in your local area, and those can have huge validity as far as Google goes, and that could be enough to push you up to the search engines for the term that you want. So it's really, really important to have a look around and see what's the most easily accessible. Of course, there are, you can pay for backlinks. Google doesn't really like it, but actually, if you pay for a backlink, essentially Google can't tell whether you've paid for it or you've had it for free because your information's so good. Just for goodness sake, make sure it's quality. Make sure that what you write is a quality article.
If you go onto like Fiverr and you're like, they offer 50, business listings for $20, is that dangerous?
Yeah, it's very dangerous to point those sorts of things at your website. You'll spend a lot of time disavowing stuff.
I see.
I'm not saying that they're all rubbish, but quite often those are generated by bots. They're generated very, very quickly, and the quality of them is really, really low. So it'll be spun content. Yeah, do you know what I mean by spun content? So basically, write an article once and get a machine to basically reformat that several times around, and that can be really, really dangerous, because if you get picked up by Google for doing that, that's not a great thing to do. There are ways that you can use that type of thing, but it's it's more complex. I won't say it's ultra complex. That's really, really patronizing, but it's more complex than just getting quality backlinks. And I would say save your money and get 1 or 2 quality backlinks from an industry body, and I think that will help your business no end.
Yeah, when I do talks for universities and stuff, they always say, "Oh, what can I do for you?" And I was like, the number one thing is like for a link on your website back to me, if we can pull that, and I will create any content you need in order to achieve that. It's not, they don't always say yes, but like those education-based websites, particularly in this country, they do particularly well.
Huge. EDUs and universities are kind of gold. In the UK, if you got a link from the BBC, that would be classed as gold as well. Newspapers are another one. So maybe write an article for a local newspaper and get them to backlink you in that. That's a great way of doing it.
If you get arrested, say, by the way, my website is.
That's a slightly nefarious way of doing it, but you could do it. I'd say give it a try and see what comes up.
Well, if you're going to print it anyway, make sure you get my website right.
Yes, that's right. See me at www. Interestingly, during the May algorithm update, it was because normally those algorithms have really, really sort of like natty names like Panda and Hummingbird. This was the May 2020 core update. That really trips off the tongue, doesn't it? But LinkedIn, funnily enough, made a little bit of a boo-boo, because somebody in LinkedIn killed off all of their www rankings. They must have, turned off their www rankings. So basically, you used to be able to type in www.linkedin.com. So those are seen as 2 separate entities.
Yeah.
And somebody for a few days turned off half of LinkedIn's links. And then they turned them back on again, and mysteriously they reappeared. But that was a bit of a troubling time, because it wasn't Google, because every other social media channel didn't have the same problem.
All right.
Weird, huh?
There you go. Well, I think I'm just going to add before we move on to the next question I have. I think what we're basically getting at is SEO is super complicated. This is one of the areas of marketing where you want to hire a professional. It's not something that you want to mess up, because messing it up means detriment. Like, it doesn't mean you just don't get the benefits. It means you could pretty much ruin your reputation with Google for your website. And once it's ruined, it's very difficult to get a reputation back with Google, which I found in my experience.
No more typing your search term in white text on a white background. That's outlawed now. They don't like that.
LinkedIn as well. Like, even on LinkedIn, you'd see there was a LinkedIn trainer in the US when I started out, and at the bottom of his profile, it said LinkedIn training, LinkedIn training, LinkedIn training, and he ranked number 1 on LinkedIn for that keyword. So obviously, it doesn't give a user a good experience, and eventually, like, it won't rank as well, because LinkedIn search algorithm will get smarter. So same principles apply.
They really do, and they're all looking at each other to see the next stroke that people are going to pull. So people are smart. People will find a way to game a system, because
and if you just think about the customer, because at the end of the day, they're trying to give the customer a good experience. So if you do the same thing, then your values, your objectives are aligned. Should achieve the same result. Paul, tell us a bit. I'm probably doing this the wrong way around. Normally, I do this at the start. But tell us about your entrepreneurial journey and how you got started in business.
Okay, right. So going back, I absolutely tanked. In the UK, we have GCSEs and A levels. So I tanked my A levels so bad. I was predicted quite high grades, A's and B's. I got. Are you ready for this? I got a D. That was my top grade. An E, and most famously an N, which nobody's ever heard of before, but that is essentially a near miss. Now, I was supposed to be going to Oxford University. Okay, so that was what I was supposed to be doing. So I think I got in there. I got in there because I drove down there and I told them that I was good enough to come. And I think they were I don't know what they did. I think I just foxed them so much. They just went, okay, we'll pick you up through clearing and you can come. So I went there. Okay. I hated it. I mean, talk about, but I met some famous people. I shared a toilet with Bill Clinton. How about that? That's impressive. A toilet with Bill Clinton.
A toilet?
Before he was president. A toilet, a bathroom. What are you doing? Yes.
We're doing cocaine with Bill Clinton.
Not the cubicle, but a larger toilet. Yeah, I met some other famous people. It was a great experience, but it just wasn't for me. I realised I liked money more than I liked education. So basically, what I did is I went out and I got into software support and things like that. Websites were just coming on stream. Really enjoyed that. Spent 15 years in horticulture, which is hilarious because I'm allergic to plants. So I spent 15 years learning about marketing creativity, and I had a brilliant time doing that. And then one day, much to my wife's absolute horror and disgust, I said, I'm done with this. I want to start up by myself without a penny to my name, a mortgage to pay, 2 kids, 3 dogs, 14 guinea pigs. I started Flok, and that is my story. I don't know why I did it. No, I do know why I did it, because I thought I had something. I thought I had something to offer back, and I really wanted to work with businesses and grow SMEs and stuff like that. So that was, in a nutshell, where I got to and how I got here.
Yeah. Look, so Paul's been one of the, I guess, engaged part of the community that's been tuning into a lot of these episodes of Monday Night Live and a lot of the content. And, obviously I get to know people that are engaging with the content over time. It's so funny. I sent out this ebook, which I just finished writing. And, obviously I'm putting it all together on Word and whatever, make it look nice. And Paul's just written to me and he's gone, mate, love the ebook. It could do with a little bit of, design flair to it. So I've jazzed it up for you, and he sent it across. And I was like, shit, that looks fantastic. Thank you. And then so I talked to Paul about doing some work for me, and he's done a few other things for me since, to do with PDF documents and designing stuff that look very similar to what the ebook did. But I have to say, like, somebody that's coming from a place of like adding value without expectation, first of all, is going to be a great content marketer. But second of all, I think you're backing your skills. And I certainly was impressed, and I was like, well, why would I get anybody else to do it? Somebody's here like showing me what they can do. And so I just want to say a bit of a plug, really. Like, if anybody's doing any, wants any web advice or SEO advice, I think Paul's the great guy. I think he knows what he's doing, and I think he'll look after you.
Oh, I really appreciate that. That's really good, and I love doing it. And the thing was, if I didn't believe in what you were doing, I wouldn't have spent my time getting it done. So I think it's also testimony to the quality of the content that was actually in the booklet that made me go, you know what, this is really good. Now, if we added a bit of joie de vivre to it, then it's going to go places, and I hope that it does exactly that for you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. That's another episode of Monday Night Live. I want you to all have a particularly good week in business this week. You only get out what you put in, so make sure you put in the hard work. Paul, thank you for a great episode of Monday Night Live. Really enjoyed that chat. Love seeing a lot of the comments come through. And Paul will check out some of the comments on LinkedIn, particularly, and do follow him on LinkedIn. I've seen that he's posting content relatively regularly, so we can all sort of help each other and be following each other's content. Drop your Google business listing in the comments, and that's what happened. Anything else to add, Paul?
No, just pop them in there. Or if you want me to have a look at your website or anything like that, stick it in there, and I will actually go through and I'll give you a little bit of a site audit and some suggestions. How about that?
Yeah, look, guys, that's a good offer. Like a lot of web design agencies offer that sort of thing, but it's not very often that you get the business owners to do it. So take advantage of that opportunity. And we will see you next week on Monday Night Live. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.